To our great joy, the black chick we thought could not see from one eye turned out not to have that problem after all. I told my mother about what I had noticed the day before, and she decided to check for herself. She picked up the chick gently and looked closely. Both eyes were open. What a joyful surprise. I still do not know exactly what happened on day 3, when she seemed unable or unwilling to open her right eye. But whatever the reason, this was a wonderful development, and we were all so relieved, even though we could still see that she often kept that left eye closed. Another exciting change came the same day. Almost all of them had figured out how to jump onto the top of our homemade feeder. From there, they stood checking around as if they had reached a new lookout point. At one moment, a red chick and a white chick shared that little landing spot, side by side, looking as if they were planning an escape together. It was almost unbearably adorable. The three of us could never seem to get enough of watching these tiny creatures. The real challenge was pulling ourselves away and returning to our daily work, a sweet but difficult challenge. And it was becoming clear that, in just another day or two, they might manage to jump out of the box and wander freely through our living room. We definitely did not want that to happen. So when we are away, we close the lid while leaving enough space for ventilation. Alternatively, we also straightened up the 4 flaps of the box to make the walls taller and the escape a little more difficult. Then we placed a pole through the ventilation holes, curious to see whether they might use it as a perch. But day 4 also brought another concern. Yesterday, we noticed that the 2 white chicks had fuller crops than the others. We were not sure whether they had simply eaten too much or whether they were not digesting their food well. This morning, we checked again. The other chicks had empty crops, but the 2 white ones still felt quite full. From what we learned, that suggested their digestion was slower than it should be. So we tried a treatment we had read about, a little olive oil, followed by gentle crop massage. It was not easy. They did not like having their beaks opened, and they struggled as we tried to help them. But once the oil was down, and their crops had been massaged, they seemed calmer, resting quietly in my hands. We also came across advice suggesting that we should reduce their food for the moment. So while the others were eating, we separated the 2 white chicks into the smaller box, their first temporary home. They looked lonely. It reminded me of the earlier moments when we had separated them for pecking at the others. Then too, they had looked miserable. But what happened next was almost comical. One by one, they carried out a successful escape, flying up to the rim of the smaller box and then jumping down into the larger box below it. We had placed the 2 boxes close together to make warming them easier, but apparently we had also made escape much easier. I have to say, they are smart, and cautious too. They stood there looking around, testing the edge again and again, hesitating for quite a while before finally making the leap. It seemed less like reckless jumping than a small act of courage. First uncertainty, then a slip, then the jump, and then the realization that everything was fine. Maybe that is how birds learn to fly in the first place, and maybe it is not so different from life. So often, we hesitate before taking action. We wonder, we test, we fear what might happen. Sometimes there is a nudge from nature, from circumstance, or from the people around us, and then we move. And only afterward do we realize that we were capable all along. We are already learning so much from these chicks. Thank you for watching. If this was helpful or inspiring, please give it a like, share, subscribe, and tell me what you're growing in the comments. See you next time in the garden.